Before we start today's build, I'm going to throw out a very important safety tip. All cans, coffee cans, soup cans, any can tin there is, they put a protective coating on the inside, and I want to show you real quick. If you take a look on the inside here, that the white is the most toxic of all of them. And there's like a silver and a gold color. They're not as bad. So you definitely, before you use any of these to make a stove or oven or any sort of thing you're going to cook food on, you want to make sure you burn them out properly, because like I said, when this stuff gets hot, it puts out a very toxic fume. Since the white is the worst and we're going to avoid that at all costs, we're going to go ahead and put that aside. And as you guessed, yes, we are making an oven. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to build our firebox. And I'm going to grab the best looking can out of the two, and I think this is going to be our firebox right here. So we need to build a way to connect these two together. So my thought is, what we're going to do is we're going to take this can here and we're going to cut, I want to say about 2 inches all the way around and cut the top ring off of it. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. And yes, we're going to be using the Dremel tool. And yes, we are using safety glasses. Now, I'm not going to use a mask today because we're outside and it's just got a little breeze going, so I'm not too worried about it. So let's go ahead and cut that 2 inches. Now we got our ring cut off. Now, very important, these edges are hella sharp, so be careful not to cut yourself. We're going to go ahead and discard this can for now. And the next thing we're going to do, I think we're using, yeah, we'll use this one. Next thing we need to do is we're going to cut a groove right down the center of the ring. Now we got a groove cut down. I bet you're wondering what we're going to do with it. We're simply going to take this and put it around the can, and we're going to pop rivet it on so the top can fits right down on the inside. Pretty good idea, huh? So I'm going to decide, I think we're going to leave about I'd say about a ½ inch up, maybe a little bit more. And I'll show you right here, if you take a look, that the rings, I cut one ring over, that the rings actually line up with the rings on this can, and we're going to kind of use that as a guide to put our pop rivets in. I think we're going to line it right about there. And we're going to take a drill and a drill bit, pop a hole right through there, and squeeze our first pop rivet in. Now you want to be careful when you drill this so you don't zap a hole through your thing. We're just going to be using your standard pop rivets, and I think, what size are these? These are 1/8 by actually 1/8, so that works out pretty darn good. You want to use stainless steel pop rivets, and the reason for that is if you use aluminum, there's a very good chance, A, they're going to put off a little bit of toxin, not much though, and B, due to the heat, they might actually pop loose. That's kind of the last thing you want to do when you have a stove in there with either a biscuit or a baked potato in it and have it fall apart on you. Or somebody's going to put that in there, put it in the hole, and I'm sure that you used the pop rivet gun before. Just kind of give it a tug and squeeze until you hear it pop. There you go, pop riveted in. We're going to go ahead and do this all the way around. And we're going to try to keep the same gap on the top as we do over here on this side, so that way it's even. Now that we got our last pop rivet in, let's take a look and see if the top piece fits on there. Not going anywhere. Now I'm going to tell you straight up, we're probably going to have to put more pop rivets in here eventually, because we're going to cut holes in here for the air to flow through. We're going to cut holes in the bottom and then cut holes in the top on the firebox. So we'll have to see how that goes. Now the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and somewhere, there it is, grab my tape measure. Let's get some tools out of the way. And we're going to make a line every inch on here. And you'll see why here in a minute. And don't worry, they don't have to be perfect, as long as we have somewhat of an equal spacing. Now that we got all our lines perfectly marked, what we're going to do is, we're making the vent holes here for the bottom, so we can get air to our firebox. And I think we're going to make those, I think an inch is good. So basically we're going to come from the lip of the can up here to the first ring, and we're going to do every other one, and we're going to draw that out for our guide. Now after we get our guide drawn out, we're going to go ahead and take the Dremel tool and we're going to cut holes for our airbox. Now down here towards the bottom, we're going to cut one extra big hole. And the reason we're doing that is going to be where we're going to put our fire starter in. So I think we're going to make this one the big hole right there. Maybe just a little bit bigger. So we're going to use, looks like 3 of those marks, which is going to be about 3 inches. That's where we're going to put the fire starter in the box at. We're going to make it the largest hole. So we're going to draw the rest of these out. We're going to grab our Dremel tool and we're going to start cutting little bitty holes for our firebox. Now you're probably going to go through several of these cutter blades, so you're going to want to buy a couple extras, trust me. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Now we got that phase of the project done. As you can see, we got all our little holes cut right here in the bottom. And we got one large hole to put our fire starter in. And we might have to tweak those down in time, make them a little bigger as we go along. We'll just see how that works out. We're going to repeat the exact same process on the top with the tape measure, if I can find it. This is going to be a little bit more tricky. We're going to use this ring right here, so I'm going to go ahead and pre-mark the ring we're going to use as our guideline. After we get our ring done, I'm going to go ahead and measure around and do the exact same thing we did on the bottom. We're going to use this rim right here as our first mark. We've got the seam side of the can. We're going to use that. We're going to throw them marks in there real quick. Now, I've got all our lines marked. The good thing about these coffee cans is they got the rings around there, and you can kind of use them to judge just where to draw your lines and how to measure by. And I've alternated between this vent hole and this vent hole right there. And the reason I did that is just kind of keep the integrity of the can. That way I didn't line my holes up and make a weak spot in it. And another reason is I want the air coming in and just kind of twisting around just to help the fire burn or coals heat up, whatever we decide to put in there. So let's go ahead and cut all these out. Now it's going to be a little bit more tricky because now we're cutting through 2 tin cans instead of 1, so we're going to have to be a little bit more careful on that. Whoops. We're almost done with the firebox. We've got our holes cut in there, hole for the fire starter. We've got our air holes. Let's go ahead and set this on there and see if we're going to need any more pop rivets. No, that's on there quite nicely. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we need to put in aluminum rods. I bet you're wondering why we're doing that. What we're going to do is be putting these rods across there and make a little grate. And the reason for that is if we're going to use charcoal, wood pellets or anything like that, it keeps them from dropping all the way to the bottom. That way the air comes up, the ashes go down. So we're going to mark holes for where we're at. We're just going to shoot from the hip through that. It should be about the same size. Yep. We're going to start, we're just going to use the second rim up from where the holes are for the air. So we're going to go all the way across the second rim up, and we're just going to start zapping holes in there. And to tell where the rod needs to go to the other side, we're just going to shove it through. Yeah, let's see, right about there. It looks good. I tell you what, just to make things a little bit easier, I'm gonna go ahead and just mark where all the holes should be. That way we can keep on the exact same ridge line there, keep everything as even as possible. And that one came out, it looked like from there to right about there. So let's go ahead and zap a hole in there. There we go, went all the way through. We're going to do something, well, let me make sure that's even before I get too spunky. Yep, that looks great. Now what we're going to do is something a little bit different. In the past, I've been having a lot of trouble bending these, and it hasn't worked out quite well, and I've always ended up denting the heck out of the can and not getting the bend in there very good. So we're going to use a little bit of fire this time. There's the fire. Now you're going to want to be careful when you do this so you don't burn yourself. And basically this is just a plumber's torch. Let's kill the light. There you go. See that? Okay. Just playing around a bit. Take the light back on. We're going to heat this out of the way. Get my water. We're going to heat this end up till it's red hot. And we're simply going to put a bend in it. Now this is going to take a few minutes. You want to hold the rod towards the end of the blue flame so it gets the hottest. And once we get it nice and warm, and you'll see it, it'll glow red, we're just going to put a simple little bend in it, and it's just a lot easier to bend that way. And we're going to immediately cool that down. Yep, we're good. We'll slide this through here and figure out where we're going to put the bend on the other end in here. looks good right there. I'm going to cut off, I want to say, I'm going to leave about a 1/16 of an inch in there. Yeah, let's just do 1/4. 1/4 of an inch, that way we get a good solid bend. So we're going to go ahead and cut that off with some side cutters. Then we're going to go ahead and heat this up again. Then we're simply going to shove it through the can. As soon as we get it through there, be careful. Remember, this thing is still red hot. I'm just going to give it just a gentle little bend over. I'm going to heat up just a little bit more to get that bend in there more the way I want it. Now be careful, do not get too much flame on the side of the canner, because remember, this is a cutting torch and it will blow a hole through the side of it in no time soon. And be careful also, the toxins in the can are going to be released as you're heating it up, so another thing you want to definitely don't want to breathe those in. We're just going to repeat this activity all the way around until we get a nice little grid built up at the bottom of the coffee can. That way our coals or wood pellets can sit in there without falling through. Okay, we're putting our very final one in, and this is a very important one. We got all these going this direction, but this one's going this direction, which interlocks all of them on the inside in there. I'm going to go ahead and pull that through a little bit. There, we're going to heat it up and cut it. And then we will pretty much be done with the firebox. There you have it, and the firebox is done. The very last one I put in there puts enough pressure down on the other ones to help support everything. This one needs to be turned just a little bit, kind of tweak it. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. There you have it, firebox. Now it's time to make the oven portion of it. Pretty sure we can probably turn this off for now. Fits on there snugly. Okay, pop that off. We're just going to set this aside for now because we don't need it anymore. Now, this is still full of soup mix. And I'm going to be wearing a mask when we drill into it and cut into it, because that dust is just going to go everywhere. But for the first thing we're going to do before I do the side door is what I have here are two top lids to the can tin. Let's move some more stuff out of the way, shall we? I've actually saved those, and we're going to be using them as a fire shield. The heat from the bottom of the firebox is going to be very intense on the bottom of the oven, so I do not want it to burn through the tin and come into the oven portion. So what we're going to do, I think we're going to use, definitely not use this one. we're going to use this one right here. We're basically going to make a little heat shield. And we're going to level that off in there and zap a hole as close to the middle as we can get it. And we got our little hole in there. We'll work on that a little bit later. We just got it marked for now. We know where it is. Okay. We need to make a door somewhere on this can. So first we're going to put it on the firebox and just see how high it comes up. And we're going to go ahead and mark that. I think what we're going to do is use this line and probably this line for our door. Go ahead and come down a little. Try to get that as square as possible. The same thing with this line. That looks pretty good. Now for the fun part. This thing is full of soup mix, and I guarantee it's going to blow dust. And probably not smell very pleasant either. So I'm going to be wearing a mask for this. And of course, safety goggles or glasses. Before we start cutting into it. Here we go. This is going to be fun. I'm telling you right now, that does not smell pleasant. Let's go ahead and dump it out in here. I don't know what kind of soup it is, but whew. And we need to save this piece right here because this is going to be the door for our oven. Oh, my lantern. Ooh. Okay, that don't smell very pleasant. I'm going to go ahead and throw this in the dumpster and clean this mess up, and we'll get back to the oven part here in a minute. Now we got that part all cleaned up. I went and threw a jacket on because it's getting a little chilly out here. We're going to grind the edges down and get all the burrs off there so we don't have any accidents and cut our finger during the next process of the stove build, or the oven build. Now, well, I'm sure we'll do a better job a little bit later, but right now we just got it down enough that there's no burrs on it. We're going to cut our finger while we're working on it. Set it in place. Getting close. We almost have it up. Now we have our door. We just got to put our door on. That's why we saved that piece out of there. We're going to be using stainless steel hinges. Now the reason for the stainless steel, I'm going to have to remind you again, is because one, there's no toxins going to burn off of it, and two, if we use aluminum or something else, there's a good possibility we might have a little bit of a meltdown situation. We're kind of wanting to avoid that. Now this is going to be a little tricky to line this up, and it's going to take a little bit of time, and you're probably going to have to do some grinding and cutting and probably a little bit of swearing, because I know I will be. But we want to get these on as straight as possible. So first thing we're going to do, we're just going to get this can leveled up as much as possible. I'm going to put these pliers on here so it won't roll away on us. And we're going to figure out, okay, that's the top right there. We're going to put the hinge on this side. That's the top there. Now we're totally winging it from this point on. Get back here. Right about there. Oh, that looks really good. Let's go ahead and zap a hole in it. Thinking right there. And we're going to be using our pop rivets. Okay, you want to make sure you got the flat side of the hinge down towards the can, and we're just going to put the pop rivet in there. Boom. We'll level that out or straighten it up as much as possible. We'll go ahead and zap the other hole in it real quick. There we go. We have our first hinge. I'm not sure how it happened, but it's actually straight. Figure that out. We're going to line the door up there. And this is where things get very interesting. Huh. I didn't cuss as much as I thought it was. Okay, now we're not going to put this other hinge in here, or the other pop rivet in here yet, until we get this hinge put on. That way we make sure we get them all nice and lined up square. Last pop rivet. Let's see how we did on the door after we put this in here. Here comes a moment of truth, or we're going to do a lot of cussing. Let's see what we got. There that opens right up. Now we still got to design a latch for it. But before we do that, we need to go back. Remember at the bottom when we drilled that hole in there? And we're going to make our heat shield now. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put that on top, and we're going to use a bolt and a nut. And I'm going to find the right size drill bit for it. We're going to zap a hole in there and put that on. Okay, we got them in there quite nicely. Yeah, we take the bolt in there, take the bottom of the can, line those up like that. And go ahead and tighten those down. Basically what this is, just a little extra reinforcement for the bottom of the oven. That way the fire won't burn a hole all the way through it. And we are almost there. We're getting there. It's got a door on. We got a heat shield. And we got cops or fire truck coming up the street. I'm not sure. We'll find out in a minute. Now, the next thing we do is we got to make some oven racks. So we're going to use the exact same process as what we did on the bottom of our firebox. So put that in there. Now we need to decide where exactly we're going to put them. And we're going to use our marker. If I can figure out exactly where it went. It was here a minute ago, I guarantee you. Ah, there we go. I think what we're going to do is we're going to do it probably almost halfway up. And I think we're just going to go, we're going to use this line right here as our guide line. And that's where we're going to go ahead and put our oven rack. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. Switch out the drill bits. Okay, that is the last one. And I simply just went ahead and put 3 racks in there. As you can see right there, because most of the time that you're going to be cooking something like a potato or maybe, you can probably get a small Danish hen in there, I'm not sure. Or like biscuits or something like that. You're usually going to put them on tin foil or on a tray anyway. Now there's only one more part we got to do, is we got to come up with a latch for the door. But all in all, we're about done. We got our shield on the bottom. The firebox is ready to go. I mean, we could probably have a first burn here within about a half hour or so. So we're going to go ahead and try to make something for as a latch here for the door. And I think I kind of got an idea. We got, here we go. We've actually gotten some of this can left here. I think what we could do, yeah, I've got an idea here. Let me do some cutting and see what we can come up with. Have to change the bit out real quick. But I've got a pretty good idea how we can make a really decent latch for this. Fairly easy and quick. Now a little bit later on down the road, I was kind of thinking, if it's not holding the heat very well, you notice we got a little bit of a gap right there. We might make something there on the inside of the can itself to kind of hold that heat in a little better. But let's do the latch first. I'm gonna do a little cutting and maybe we can design something. really love making stuff on the fly because you just don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, see how well that worked. Not too bad. Everything lined up pretty good. So I'll tell you what, let's zap a hole in it right about there. So that might be a little too big. Okay, let me get the hole in it first. I'm gonna cut, well, hang on a second. Oh, grabbed the wrong ones, hang on. Okay, let's try these. You know what? That's going to actually work. Okay. We're going to pop this little guy in right here. That up. Huh. Actually, that's going to work a lot better than I thought. Putting that in just a notch. So that's some pressure on it. What we're going to do is going to cut another piece for right here. You know what? This might work. Put that. Yeah. Okay, this one is probably going to need 2 holes put in it. Now, we can only put 1 hole in it now that I think about it, because it needs to be able to pivot. So put 1 hole in there. Line that up right about. That should line up for a hole here. Yeah, it does. I must be getting loopy. I'm going to pop rivet this into place. Okay. Now, we're going to need to put a little bend on it right. Let me see how we're lining up. And just a little bit more. I'm going to mark that. And we're probably going to put a bend right about there. Pop that out, we'll put a bend in it. Huh. Well, I'll be darned. Let me just made a latch. I'm probably going to smooth these edges off a little bit so you don't cut your finger. Oh, it's not bad for on the fly. Nice little latch for it. Yeah, be damn. Well, there you go. We made an oven. Got a firebox. Got the heat shield. Got the top part. And just by messing around real quick, a couple minutes of work, I got a nice little latch to work with. Well, that's been the oven build. Real time, it took about 2 hours. I'm not sure what video time will be. We'll find out when we're done editing. I think, I think I'm going to go ahead and go for a first burn tonight and just curiously see how hot it's going to get. So I'm going to clear all this gear out and get set up for our first burn. I've decided to make this a two-part segment. So this concludes the first portion of the oven build. So if you want to see the first burn, which I'm getting ready to do here in a minute, you might want to check out part 2. And as always, thanks for watching.